as I expected, and to this enormous exasperation, I must have had 98% of the fur that I needed. There are a few odd little scraps left, but it's just not quite going to be enough. This fell to the floor at one point and the legs broke, so they're being glued. So I've ordered some more. Fortunately, I was able to order a piece that was smaller than this, but larger than the original little sample piece. But the estimated delivery date is about 3 weeks hence. No idea why it should take that long, but there we go. There's a lot of trimming and fixing to do, but I'm going to leave that for the moment. And loads of detailing, the windows, the washing line, a lot more work to do on the rock. I did do a little bit of extra work on that. The soil layer, some detailing, some weeds and things. The window and the doors for Quondam's hut. These two ends, which are going to represent interiors of ripped way buildings. But I think what I'm going to work on first is the garderobe chute that leads to. It's going to lead very sort of awkwardly to the passage down to the cesspit. Garderobe is a medieval toilet chute. It is related to the word wardrobe, and quite how to do one has proved difficult because I've been researching it, and I knew that there were multiple tiered garderobes where you could have the toilet room, which projects out from the buildings one over the other, but of course, because you wouldn't want to be using a toilet like that just in a shaft when somebody on the floor above was performing the same function, the structure of them needs to be a little bit cunning, and I really struggled. I knew I'd seen them somewhere in castles in Britain, and finally, after quite a long time of internet research, I found this diagram of showing one type. There are at least 4 named castles in Britain that have these compound garderobe chutes. I thought they might work a bit like an upside down chimney, because when you get tiered chimneys in sort of later castles, the smoke from lower fireplaces has to go up behind. I thought it might be, if you just take that structure and invert it, might sort of work. This is a garderobe chute built within the thickness of a castle wall. That sort of works. Most of them jutted out from castle walls, and very often the excretia just fell from the jutting out, the corbelled out garderobe chamber, and that was a really good idea because it meant people couldn't get into your castle by attempting to climb up the garderobe chute. I know that, as far as I know, there are no pictures of tiered buildings with garderobe systems or what they look like. So I'm going to have to design one basically, and that gives me freedom to be sort of quite wacky and freeform in what it's going to look like and how I imagine the inside of it to function. And it would be toilets, and there would also be sluices. Of course, a lot of people in medieval buildings would be using chamber pots and taking the contents to dump down a sluice chute. A little piece of paper that's been on the ground here by the drain for the last several months, that said garderobe here, has just gone in the bin. And I've decided that it's not going to be a garderobe, it's going to be a sluice. And I've constructed it in cardboard. That was a fiddle and a half, I can tell you. It's got to be clad next. Like that little tunnel that you can barely even see now, that connects the tower to the building, and that, I reckon, just based on how long it took me to do it in cardboard, it's going to be a couple of days work to do the sort of micro carpentry to clad that in timber. And that's where it dumps out into the drain, which happens to be by the back door, in a terrible bit of design. There'll be a plank bridge, and you can imagine people having to come out. There's barely enough room to get that back door open, and if you come out at the wrong time, you're liable to get splattered by what's coming down the sluice chute. Sluice, pleased with that, except when you look carefully you see that I've only done the front face of it. I haven't done the top side or the bottom side, and that took me all day, or the best part of a working day, I suppose 5 or 6 hours, because each piece of timber had to be cut to the precise length using the Dremel tool. And at that rate, there's going to be another couple of days before I finish it. But it was sort of therapeutic, and I like the way it's coming together. I like what it's going to look like when it's finished. I think can't really get any light in there. But I also ran out of pieces. That's all I've got left, so I'm going to have to get some more tongue depressors and slice them up and pre-paint them. They will be given a few washes of just dark wash, and then grey paint to make it look like weathered wood, so it will be closer to the actual colour of the dark timbers. It's difficult to get that right, actually. For some reason that particular mix is very opaque. I need to keep it very watery, I think, and you can see where there's a bit of it on these timbers, how incredibly opaque it is. It should be translucent enough to still sort of show the contrasts and the different shades of brown just about that are underneath it. I need to pay attention to that when I get to that stage, but as I say, that's a fair way away yet. That's the sluice finished at last, and well, almost finished. There's even a little vent on the top, and I just filled some of the gaps with some black, it's the lightweight filler, and black and burnt umber paint going in there. And I was going to wipe it off as I went, but actually allowing it to smear to me looks right, because it occurred to me that without thinking about it, what I got there is something that looked just like tar, and tar would have been what they used to plug gaps and line the inside of a sluice, I think. Or I've decided anyway. There's a little bit more cleaning up. I had to leave it overnight just to let it dry for solidity. I'm worried about individual planks pinging off, because surfaces like that were all stuck on with PVA, but surfaces that needed, we're not going to be held on by gravity while the glue dried had to be held on by the contact adhesive, which I'm again almost running out of. A little bit of tidying up needs to be done. I just need to take the Dremel tool and just take off a few overhanging bits, then touch up these ends, and then there will be some layers of wash, trying to really discipline myself to keep those washes very dilute, so that the lovely variation that I've got in it isn't too spoiled as I reduce it down to a weathered grey. And then at the end of all of it, I will actually go over that with a matte varnish, just to give it a final seal, just to make sure that in years to come, if this sculpt lasts for years to come, that individual bits don't ping off as the glue ages. Well, the bear fur has come, which is great. I can go back to that when I've finished the sluice, or the junk chute. And in the bottom of a bag, I found that. Clearly marked with T for top and B for bottom. And what that is a bit of balcony rail. This end of the balcony was meant to be rough because it's the sort of semi-detached building, but the other end of the balcony, all the way around on the opposite corner, which wouldn't have fed onto another balcony before the rip away because the other building was inset. That's meant to be the posh bit of balcony rail for there, and I lost it, forgot about it, and went off track. So I'm going to paint that up and put that back in where I put a bit of temporary railing. A new discovery, an extra little job. I did virtually nothing on the project yesterday. I had it down on here, just working on the roof with the fur that finally came the day before that, and I think I sort of hit the wall like a marathon runner is said to do, because it's just a large area and it's tedious. And today I've decided I absolutely must spend some time on it, but I'm having to force myself. That's that thing you get, I suppose, when there's no fresh creative thinking needed. You're just fiddling about, correcting. And now that I've lifted it up today, just for a sort of final look, looking from this angle, I see all sorts of things, like places where I do need to add in a bit more fur, places that I could not see at all from looking from a higher angle. There are these gaps which I don't seem to be able to show you, but I know they're there. I've just stuck in some little pieces of split tongue depressor into some of these gaps to make sure that marries up tightly to that. That's going to need more twiddling and fiddling and mucking about. And then these edges where you can see the weave of the fabric, I thought I'd got all of those, but now looking from this angle, it's the difference between the top of the roof being sort of just above my waist, I suppose, to it now being the top of there is a couple of inches above head level. My eye level is actually here. But these need to be trimmed off, and then bits that can't be trimmed off just get touched with brown burnt umber paint, and then bits of loose fur which I've been collecting continually drops onto the floor, and I just keep picking those bits up and sticking them in there. Those are going to be used for plugging minor gaps and places where there's still seams showing. And that's going to be a few more hours of just chore. I think I'm going to have to find an audio book to listen to this afternoon, and I think it's like gardening, planning and designing and planting up a new flower bed is something I really enjoy doing, but the tedious, repetitive weeding for years after is something that leaves me cold and I find very, very difficult. I just don't seem to have the right mindset for doing that. I've had to trim away into the thatch because I discovered I'd stuck it down quite thoroughly. I couldn't cut through the cloth backing, so I just had to mark out with masking tapes where I want these to go, and just about to glue those in place with the styroglue. When you go to the barber to have your beard trimmed after a bit of a comb, which it has had, you'll have one of those. You'll be asked if you want a number 1 or a number 2 or a number 3, which is that sliding thing there that affects the lengths. You can't do it one-handed. And then at the end you'll have a trim and a tidy up. It's a scary bit with the bare beard trimmer. And that's what I'm going to use to try and tidy up some of those stray bits. Just about working. Different qualities to human hair, I think, because it's actually very, very, very soft. Probably more like a child's hair. Not that the children aren't human. It didn't sound right, did it? This is the spray painting. It's just a case of patience. Covers a very small area at a time, and I've quickly learned that you can't do it like that. It just blows the thatch everywhere. I always have to be on the down slope or working. Tricky to do with the camera in a way. Working down along the direction of the pile, so that I'm blowing it into place. It's working well at the moment, but I do have to. It's the way of airbrushes that you have to stop every now and then because it's gummed up. And strip it down into at least 7 or 8 parts. You can strip it down further, but you strip it down into at least that many parts, and then have a thorough clean. And there's a temptation to have a exhale and puff out, because it does get in your mouth. I've got a mask on now. I had a mask on a minute ago. That makes my glasses steam up. I sometimes keep checking to see if it's still actually producing paint. And when it gets too gummed up and you can't clean it anymore by doing a bit of blowback, by putting your finger over the end of the airbrush, you strip it down and clean it. And you've got to be careful with the blowback, because I did do that a little while ago, and a sort of explosion of paint out the top of the thing, all over the yard and the tower and everywhere. I had to stop immediately and get a wet paper towel and wipe most of it off. And it's all about making gradual changes, not speeding up, not rushing it, because that will instantly destroy the effect. You can see now maybe starting to block up again. No, I'm not. That's clear. It's like that most of the time. slowly but surely.